Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at the race that precedes Saturday's DRF race of the day, the Ohio Derby. This was number 11 at Thistledown. It's the Lady Jacqueline for fillies and mares. We're going a mile and an eighth. $250,000 is the purse. We take a look at this field. It's a big field, and as you see by the morning line, it's kind of wide open. Interstate Daydream just won the Allaire DuPont at Pimlico, kind of had an easy lead that day, might not get the same situation in the Lady Jacqueline, but you have several other horses that have proven themselves against in graded stakes competition and a couple of local horses with some ability.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it all plays out then. I mean, the horses that are shipping in for this race, they kind of feel like, in some ways, they feel like standouts in this field. We'll see how it all plays out, though. It's not like any of them are killers, that's for sure. It just feels like a great spot for them to ship into. I guess you could argue that the mile and an eighth distance could really play a factor here at the end.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector because this pace might also play a little bit of a factor as well. Secret Fix is one of the sort of local hopefuls in here. She is very, very fast out of the gate. A mile and an eighth against this quality of competition is a great unknown. Red Hot Lass has shown speed in the past. She didn't break well in her most recent start. Candy Island is a horse that has speed. Interstate Daydream, of those four, probably has the most quality. Will she be able to stay close to a fast pace and punch home at a mile and an eighth? That's a big question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think she's a horse who has to be on the lead to be effective. So if they go fast in front of her, maybe it won't matter anyway, Dan. We'll see. She's a two-time winner going 9 furlongs, a two-time stakes winner going 9 furlongs. So I don't think you're supposed to worry about distance with her. But I agree that this pace is probably going to be fast if this field stays intact. I mean, it's a big field. I think there's a lot of filler in here, though. And most of those horses sort of want to be forward.
The closer to watch, however, might be the number 4, Lady Jacqueline. You see the LP flag over her chiclet. That means she has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating, and maybe she was compromised by a moderate pace last time out. Could have a much different situation in here. We'll start things off with the 1, Soul of an Angel. Now, this is a horse that's tried graded stakes competition in the past, has come up a little bit short. She might have the right running style for this race, but I think she probably needs to run a career best. Lots of seconds and thirds on her page.
Yeah, lots of those. That's true. I mean, I agree with you, though. I mean, of the horses who feel like they're going to be, sort of bigger prices in this field, maybe she's one that you at least want to stay on the positive side of, because she will probably just sit back and make one run in this race. It could really set up for her. She has the inside too, so she gets to save a lot of ground. Overall, the times that they've run her in stakes races, it hasn't really worked out. It feels like these races are just a little bit too tough for her, but maybe she gets a great trip in this race.
Perhaps one of the local hopes, the number 2, Malice, will be a pace presence as she stretches all the way out from 3/4 of a mile. She was on the lead in last year's Lady Jacqueline before tiring to finish 5th. Here's her most recent start. They cut her back to 3/4 of a mile in an allowance race. She didn't get off to the greatest start. She's the gray horse, finally going to angle to the outside, and she'll come with a little bit of a run at the end. It's all about whether she's good enough at this sort of level.
Yeah, she's hard to like against a field like this one. This isn't a bad performance we're watching right now, where she gets up for second on a big cutback in distance. It's interesting, Dan. I mean, overall, her record's pretty good. These connections claimed her for 5,000. 9 of her 11 wins have come since they've claimed her. I mean, they've obviously gotten her good.
Red Hot Lass, the number 3, will be making her stakes debut. She ran away and hid 2 starts back at Thistledown, going a mile, unable to get to the front. And that situation just didn't happen 5 days ago when she missed the break and then didn't run very well. It'll be interesting to see if they run her back off short notice and they'll be stretching her all the way out.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll actually wheel her back in this race. Maybe they just want to do that just based on the effort 2 starts back, where she got clear on the lead. And never really gave that field a chance. If she runs here, this trip is going to be a lot different for her, and it's going to be much more difficult for her to beat a field like this one.
Ludovica acts like a mile and an eighth is going to be just fine for her, and she ran well last time out in the Allaire DuPont. It was a race that didn't have a huge field. Interstate Daydream got the jump on her. Ludovica came with her run. She's the kind of horse that's a little bit quirky. You never know what you're going to get from a lead change standpoint, but she usually does fire on in the final furlong.
Yeah, she does stay on in her races. It's not like she comes with some kind of huge finish most of the time, but she will be staying on to the end. So I agree with you. I don't think the mile and an eighth is any big deal for her. And listen, more than anything else, in that most recent start, they walked in front of her. She had to come around widest to the stretch. I also feel like that was the day before the Preakness. I still feel like that was a day where you didn't really want to be closing on the main track, and she was making up ground at the end. There's a lot pointing to her in this race, I think.
Misty Vale was claimed for $80,000 by high percentage trainer Michael Maker. She also comes out of the Allaire DuPont. She was second to Interstate Daydream that day. Again, she was sort of chasing on the outside. Maybe that ground loss and the slow pace worked against her, but she's the kind of mare that can sit back and sort of make one run from mid-pack if necessary.
Yeah, that's what I like about her too, Dan, because earlier on in her career, for some of her prior connections, she was much more of a speed type horse. They would always go forward with her, put her up on the lead, and then to see if she could last. Since Maker's taken over, he's gotten her to relax a little bit more. And I think that's really starting to work to her advantage. She was close to a relatively easy pace in that DuPont last time, and she got right alongside Interstate Daydream in the stretch and then ultimately couldn't get by her. But that being said, she was also wide around the track while Leda Vida got to save a lot of ground early, and obviously Interstate Daydream had a much better trip than she did.
The 6 is 63 caliber. She was a graded stakes winner in New York last year for trainer Tom Amis. She's only had 2 runs in 2023. The first against grade 1 competition, going a mile and a 16th, a race she probably needed and a race that she might have been in simply too steep. Last time out, the question is, do you believe that Buyer's speed figure? She chased a gate-to-wire winner, a Juddmonte filly trained by Chad Brown, who got a lot of potential. Do you believe the 98?
Yeah, I don't know. That race did come back very fast. It does, if nothing else, it feels like the horse that won it, that Brad Cox horse, has a lot of upside. So we'll see. Maybe the race is as fast as it came back on paper. She ran okay in that race. I don't know, Dan. I have a tough time with this horse because I know that she's good enough to win here. I know that she won a couple of stakes races last year, and she won the Cumley over this distance with a 94 Buyer too. So it's not like the 98 came out of nowhere. I just don't really like any of her races. I'm not sure how good I think she is. And she's going to be one of the favorites in here. So I went looking elsewhere.
I like that she's tactical. I think she can sort of sit mid-pack
Yeah.
here if the pace is fast. 5-1, you could argue, is fair coming off that 98 career Buyer top. It's all about value at the end of the day. It'll be very interesting to see how they bet this race. Gray Royalty comes off a second-place effort at Thistledown. We're going to watch that race right now. She is the gray horse getting to the outside. She's going to end up finishing second. She's a consistent horse that likes to hit the board. This is also a 12,500 beaten claimer, so it's just a different level of competition.
Yeah, this is a 12-5 claimer, and she was actually up in class in this race. Her win 2 back for 7,500, now winner 3. Listen, there's not really that much to say here. She's going to be a huge long shot if you somehow like her.
Interstate Daydream, multiple graded stakes winner, won the Black Eyed Susan, won the Indiana Oaks last year, had a very good campaign, thought she ran just fine, went third in the Azeri in her seasonal debut. She kind of bombed in the Double Dog Dare 2 starts back. That was a race without Lasix, and she won't be racing with Lasix at Thistledown on Saturday. She bounced back out of the Double Dog Dare with Lasix in the Allaire DuPont, a race we've talked about. Interstate Daydream got to the lead. She basically went 49 seconds for the half mile. You see Misty Vale up alongside. It looks like Interstate Daydream is in hot, hot water. She finds a little bit more at the end. We see Leda Vida on the outside on her left lead. She's making up a run. The pace worked against her. Let's give Interstate Daydream credit. She dug in, but when you get away with almost a 50-second half mile, you're supposed to sprint home.
Yeah, she just had all the best of it there. She was dead game to turn away a stiff challenge in the stretch, but she had all the best of it up to that point. And it feels like, you just almost, especially if she's going to be the favorite in here, Dan, you just almost have to look at it and say, man, she took advantage a little bit last time and she didn't win by that much. So, how much do you want to take her back against some of the same horses in this race with a totally different pace scenario? Personally, I don't really feel like if she doesn't make the lead, it's any big deal. I think she's fine without it. I'm just not sure that I would take too short a price on her because I've never really liked her.
Secret Fix is the number 9. She's won her last 3 starts on fast dirt. It appears she doesn't like these wet tracks. She blew them away at 1-10. And first level allowance at Thistledown going a mile. This is the first time they stretched her out around 2 turns in her career, and she just showed this field her heels from the start. That being said, while she earned a good figure and she looks good doing it, now she's got to go a mile and an eighth in a race where the pace could be very hot.
Yeah, those things are really going to work against her. It feels like. I mean, I won't knock any of those last three wins, which have come over fast tracks. Which I think you're right, Dan. It just feels like that makes a huge difference for her. And she handled the mile last time when they stretched her out. Now they're going to stretch her out again, but they're going to do it against way, way, way better horses.
Candy Island is the number 10. Nice claim by these connections. They took her for $10,000 after a maiden win at Churchill Downs. She's run 4 times, 2 wins, 2 seconds, including this race at Mountaineer, third level allowance. Got a big look at it turning into the stretch, Mike. Just can't finish it off. Buyers are a little bit light.
Yeah, she's a little too slow. She also might have the wrong, running style for this race. Can't get by here in the stretch, Dan. Maybe it's a disappointing loss. It's at least worth pointing out that the horse that's holding her off at the end there is 2-5.
Market Success is up next. This is an Ohio bred with 11 lifetime wins. She's coming into this race in good form. Here's her victory earlier in the month, going a mile at Thistledown. She sat just off the early leader. She got on the attack turning into the stretch, and she's just game and she's good, and she was able to handle this sort of competition. Of course, these are state breds she's beating.
Yeah, the Ohio bred races feel like that's where she really fits. This is a nice win for her, though. She's had to turn away a challenge there in the stretch, and she got the job done. 2 starts back, she faced a couple of these, and she didn't really make it that close, but she was off the layoff that day.
Another Ohio bred with ability is the 12 Candlelight Hours. We're going to watch her most recent start. This is an open allowance race going 5.5 furlongs, but have no fear, she's also one going a mile and a 16th. Once she made the lead here, she devastates this group.
Yeah, this is a really nice performance. And again, I feel like you just always have to point it out. It's not easy to cut back from 8.5 to 5.5 furlongs. That's not an easy thing to do. But she definitely made it look easy winning that race. She's another one. She's a little bit slow on the way into this. It's a pretty big step up in class for her. But man, she shows up every single time. Tough post.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Lady Jacqueline Stakes. Lita Vita, Mike, completely different pace scenario than in the Allaire DuPont. A mile and an 1/8. She should want every inch of it. She's going to be running in the late. Let's see her change leads.
Yeah, we'll see. I just hope everything works out for her from a trip standpoint. And I think that's probably going to happen here. So I just wanted to take her because I kind of feel like the 2 favorites are going to be your top pick, 63 Caliber, and Interstate Daydream. And while they're the right 2 horses in here, I just don't love either one of them. I wanted somebody else.
I'm going to give 63 Caliber another chance, making her 3rd start of the year. I think she's got certainly more tactical speed than a horse like Le DeVita will get a jump on her turning for home. I'm going to believe the buyer. I think she can run a buyer in the mid-90s, and if she does, she'll be real tough in the Lady Jacqueline. 4586 for Mike, 6854 for me. Same superfecta, different order in the Lady Jacqueline on Ohio Derby Saturday at Thistledown. Best of luck.